Hi, my name's Nick Broughton and I'm a Randomfish. If you're a Randomfish too, hit that subscribe button and let's be Randomfishes together, shall we? Now guys, we recently had a trailer drop online. A rather dark trailer. One that is fated to possibly be a good movie or a completely despised movie. And yes, I am talking about Terminator. Guys, I love the reaction videos that I'm getting from this. I see some of the reaction videos that I see from Terminator Dark Fate, the new trailer, and I love everyone's reaction. From it being that people enjoy it, to those people that sit there and say, it doesn't look good, it looks needless, it looks pointless, blah blah blah. And I just kind of want to point out one thing, just one quick thing, just before I go into this trailer. What did we think was going to happen? What did we expect was going to happen? Because let's take a look at this. Terminator 1 was that movie. Terminator 2 is possibly considered, outside of Empire Strikes Back, to be one of the greatest sequels of all time. And I'm okay with that. But the thing that bugs me is that Terminator 2, it feels like that's the plot that's being copied across the whole shebang. And I mean, even Terminator Genesis, in a slight way, was trying to rehash the first one, but turned it into the second one. And people, the biggest issue I hold from this is that people seem to think that the Terminator story is something that needs to sort of be looked at. Not something. The story is not important, people. It's not. It's not important. What's important are the characters that go with it. Terminator 2 Judgment Day had some of the greatest moments ever. Linda Hamilton returned as Sarah Connor. Her son was running around doing his thing. And Arnie returned as the leather-wearing awesomeness that was the Terminator. And for the first time ever, we got a genuine surprise on screen. We got the moment of going, is he here to hurt John Connor? Is he here to kill him like he was in the first one? Oh my god. And it turns out that he's not. It turns out that he is 100% there to protect John against the other Terminator that was sent back, the T-1000. Now, I have nothing against Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, apart from everything he did in his social life and all that crap. But I'm not American. I do not have to be offended at this. I can choose to disassociate from that side of his life and focus solely on his career as an actor. This is how I personally do things. I don't care if you don't like it. This is how I roll. There are some artists that I cannot separate the art from, and there are those that I can. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of those people. Because, let's face it, he is not someone who was ever going to be famous for his good acting abilities. He was going to be famous for the same reason that he was ever going to be famous, because he's an idiot. Because he sounds silly on screen. Because he's this guy in dumb action movies for the longest time. This is what he was associated with. And some of these films were good, some of them weren't. But Terminator is what made him into a strong, viable action star. And, I mean, if you can really... There are some people who can take him seriously as an actor. The reason why I can disassociate the art from the artist in his case is that I can only ever see him as the robot. I can only ever see him as the Terminator, this thing from the future that's completely confused by, by our timeline and by all the silly things that we do. It seems as if he's somehow trying to keep himself going at all times. And I mean, he's such a big guy. It's a muscular, big guy, muscular guy that it amuses me when he tries to play other roles outside of the Terminator or possibly Conan the Barbarian. And the only reason why I enjoy Conan the Barbarian is because of Mako. Yes, Mako, awesome guy. But that was a tangent that I don't really plan to stay on. Arnie returning as the Terminator was always fun. Linda Hamilton is great in this film. The other actors who come in, they add to the characterization, they add to the story. The kid who played the young John Connor, great. Nothing against him. He's brilliant. He really is. But let's face facts, people. From that point on, Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, and Terminator Genisys, those films were trying to do Terminator 2. Trying to create something that was about changing fate, but not really changing fate. I mean, T3 very much sort of went, you stopped one Judgment Day and stop any other Judgment Day from potentially happening, which I have to say I liked the idea of. I liked this idea that the Judgment Day was inevitable, that everything that Sarah Connor did was for nothing. This idea that it had to happen this way, that the machines had to take over. I like that about it. I like the fact that it's almost as if those of you who are Doctor Who fans will know from New Who anyway, that there are things called fixed points in time, points that you cannot change. And I like the idea that the apocalypse is one of those things. I like the fact that humanity being driven to the point of near extinction is actually such an event that it can never be changed. I think that's a good idea to go with, and I think it's one they should continue. I think that's one they should have stayed with personally. Terminator Salvation is, of course, the only film that's not designed or doesn't look like on the surface like it's a rip-off of T2. But to be honest, you have the guy that goes through time. Granted, he goes forward in time, not back in time, so it's a bit less impressive, but whatever. You have the introduction of still trying to change fate, or still trying to figure out how this works and what he can and can't do and all this sort of thing, trying to maintain the timeline. And on top of that, you also have the fight against the machines, one that the humanity is trying to win. And it ends with Terminator 2 setup being created thanks to the introduction of Kyle Reese in the story arc to John Connor, and he knows who he is. He has a much greater understanding because of Sarah Connor's notes to him. Terminator Genisys is the biggest middle finger to the Terminator franchise by just going, what if we rewrote history? What if we just redid the whole thing and ha 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 ha. A little bit of a stupid thing, really. I'm not a fan. Terminator Genisys is... all the Terminator films, I mean, everything from about T3 onwards, as far as I've always been concerned, are essentially almost dumb action movies for the sake of dumb action movies. Terminator Salvation had a little bit of an edge on that because it was more sci-fi apocalypse, more of a sci-fi version of Apocalypse Now than it was anything else. But Terminator Genisys did not feel like a Terminator movie. It felt like an action movie that happened to contain Terminators. It didn't feel as connected. And I mean, the other Terminator movies, as I've said, they're all dumb action movies, but they add something different to each of their movies. Terminator Genisys did not do that. It felt forced, I think is the best way to describe it. It felt forced. So anyway, let's forget about that. Let's put aside my bitching and moaning about the Terminator franchise and focus on Terminator Dark Fate. What happens in this trailer? Well, obviously, I mean, you've watched the trailer clearly, otherwise you wouldn't be here looking at this. I'm not playing the trailer or anything like that, simply because, as far as I'm concerned, you know, you guys are old enough, you're dumb enough, silly enough, whatever, to have looked at this video. You really should have seen the trailer already and kind of created your own thoughts, because if not, then I'm giving you your own thoughts, and I don't know, I guess I kind of want someone else to give you your own thoughts. I don't like being the guy that tells you what you should be thinking. Unless it's about something I really hate, in which case you will think what I think, and I really don't give a damn, because I'm on YouTube and you're not. But Terminator Dark Fate starts off with, you know, first of all, Linda Hamilton is back, Arnie is back, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see these two characters back at the very least. Something I saw in one of the reaction videos was about how they were sitting there going, Linda Hamilton has smoked far too many cigarettes. And they listed that as a bad thing. I mean, I get the whole, you know, smoking's bad for you, cancer, all that kind of thing, blah, 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 and that's all well and good to think, but, I mean, whether you like it or lump it, if you sound like that and you're an older character and you're trying to play an older version of a character, it helps. And it makes the character better. It doesn't make it worse, it makes it better. That's how I've always seen it. Arnold is, of course, still playing, I think he's playing anyway, the T-800. The T-800 in this case apparently pissed Sarah off in some way, shape or form. All that sort of thing. And then we have the introduction of these two characters that I'm looking at here on my laptop. Mackenzie Davis playing Grace, and Natalia Reyes playing Danny Ramos, and Gabriel Luna, who's playing another Terminator, who obviously was sent to kill, I think it's Natalia Reyes' character. He comes back as a Terminator. I mean, I'm just sort of expecting him to set himself on fire and turn into a flaming skull. It's the first thing I saw this guy in. You were in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., bro. I can't not see you in anything else. Ah, fuck. I don't like this. I don't like looking at an actor on a screen and honestly not thinking about him in any other form, in any other concept beyond what I've seen him in previous shows. It's actors are meant to transcend that, and it's not happening, and it's kind of frustrating. But that being said, I will hope for the best and hope that he is a strong character that we can still be connected with. So that's fine. The story goes, from what I'm seeing in the trailer anyway, is that Grace, Mackenzie Davis in this, is an enhanced human. Not a Terminator, but an enhanced human who's looking after this Danny Ramos, Natalia Reyes character, in this film. Now, everyone started bitching and moaning about how, you know, oh, where's John Connor? Is she the new Defender of Humanity? Blah, blah, blah. There's a line in the trailer that I want you guys to think about. That line being Sarah Connor's. She says, because I was her. Because I was her. The theory that I'm going to postulate is one that Danny Ramos in this film is not the new John Connor, but the new Sarah Connor. AKA, not the savior of humanity, but the one who will bring about the savior of humanity. Now, this could mean anything from she's going to get strong enough and powerful enough in order to train the new chosen one, the new leader, the new messianic figure, or she is going to be pregnant with that same messianic figure. Now, from my perspective, I hope that this is true. For the very simple reason that we constantly talk about how there's the chosen one. We talk about how there's the one that's going to change everything, the one that's going to free us from the darkness, blah, 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 blah. We never really go back to what made T1 interesting. That being that this woman, Sarah Connor, is thrown into this world of madness, and the only thing that gives her even the slightest bit of comfort is that her son, the son that she doesn't even know that she's going to have, and she only learns about this from some random dude who turns up out of nowhere from the future and tells her everything, the only thing that stands in the way of these machines destroying everything is the child that she didn't even know she was going to have until she's in Kyle Reese's arms and she realizes she's pregnant. And I honestly think that that is not a better story, but a story that is less told, and one that I think should be told a hell of a lot more. With that being said, I don't want to make it seem like I want there to be a female-led cast where it turns into some kind of rom-com. I don't want that. I want this to be a strong action movie. But I want there to be a more of a mentor story in this, less of a friggin' Chosen One story. The Chosen One story is fine for what it is, for stuff like the John Connor stuff or whatever. The Sarah Connor story that we get is of a woman thrown into a life that she didn't even know she was going to have to lead. And she's been thrown into it head first because that future is so threatened by her. Like, not even by her son, by her very existence, that they have to go back and kill her before she even creates the threat that destroys them. That's how big a mess this is. And I know that may seem like I'm glorifying John Connor's, that John Connor is, I'm trying to be more of his sort of, disciple, the messianic figure, obviously, that he is. But Sarah Connor's story is infinitely more interesting than John's. John is thrown into this head first because he is the chosen leader of the human resistance. Sarah Connor could have done nothing. She could have completely ignored this and walked away, but she didn't. She stayed and she fought. And honestly, fucking A. I love that about her character. I love that even in T2, she's locked in a mental institution and she's still defiant, still saying that she knows about this existence, about this horrifying world that would eventually happen. Now again, I don't know if I necessarily want Danny Ramos to be pregnant with the next messianic figure or the next John Connor, if you will, but I want the mentor kind of story to be created for this idea that she will create the new leader of the resistance through her being exposed to this world in the same way that Sarah was. And I mean, I know that might be taking a lot from one line in the trailer, but by God, I kind of wish that was the case. Simply for that reason. I love it. I love the idea of that. Linda Hamilton obviously wants to kill the Terminator. Sarah Connor wants to kill the original Terminator that she sees. That's Arnie in this. He has clearly been hiding out, or he hasn't been terminating all that much. Blah blah blah. According to this, anyway, according to something else that I picked up, James Cameron wanted to follow it on from T2. That's what he wanted. He wanted to follow the story on from T2, and that was it. Now, people seem to be talking about how it's the story of how the Arnie Terminator killed John. That's something that I found as a random thing on the internet. I don't know if it's true. I kind of don't know if I want it to be true, but if it is true, I kind of wish it was in the way of sort of John trying to do the whole screw this, screw my future mentality, and Arnold says, if you try and walk away, I will have to kill you because you need to be doing things. And John says, fine, kill me, and Arnie just does, and then he leaves Sarah alone because Sarah says, I will destroy you, and Arnie goes, well, you can't. See you later, and he leaves. I almost sort of like that idea of that, because obviously the Terminator in Terminator 2 does die. The only other thing I can possibly think of is that they're throwing us a red herring. That Emilia Clarke from Terminator Genesis, who played the young Sarah Connor at the time, almost if she grew up and still became Linda Hamilton, that in that timeline, the one that was her father, the Terminator who raised her, I like this idea of him still being alive when she gave birth to John, and John getting older and her telling him about all this, and him sort of saying blah blah blah, and maybe something happened to him that she views as his fault. It's entirely possible. I don't know really what else to sort of suggest on that one, but I kind of wish that were true at least. A lot of the stuff that comes through this is obviously fan service for Linda, and I won't lie, I want to see this film because of her, and I want to see this film because of Arnie. I mock him, yes, of course I mock him, but he's still fun to watch on screen, as she is. As will all of these actors. And I kind of want to end this video simply by saying to any people out there who have created their own preconceived notions about how this film is going to suck. People, every time a new Terminator movie has come out, you've all been wondering how and why. Well, simply because people watch these films. Whether you like it or lump it, these films are still being made now. And we have to realize that there's something to that. Is it good? How should I know? The fact is, we should wait until it's out before we judge it. But those are just a few of my own my own sort of theories, my own ideas about what could potentially happen. If it doesn't happen, if they're trying something new, you know what? Fine, bring it on. I love the idea of being surprised on screen. I love that. Before I sign off, yeah, just don't try and judge a film too harshly by its trailer. I mean, I know we do anyway, and I know a bunch of you probably will, despite what I'm saying on this video, but I mean, at least try not to judge everything so badly through their trailers, because if you do that, then we end up with people who don't watch any movies, and then the entire industry collapses. Which isn't something that we really want. I still want movies to be made. I still want to enjoy movies. I want to make movies, for crying out loud. But I mean, guys, just, yeah. Check it out again sometime. And look at it with a different pair of glasses, maybe. Not literally. Metaphor... you know. Randomfish out.